Recording.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world watching us. My name is Bryan Shue, and I have Kirsten Larson with me today. And we're going to be having a conversation about lockdown with thought leaders. And it's going to be a conversation between her and I. And we're going to try to see how we're doing with this whole lockdown situation, how we're doing with our jobs, how we're doing with life, and just how we're doing in general. So, Kirsten, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure to work with you over the last couple of weeks at Fullmoon Digital. And I'm going to turn it over to you to give a brief introduction about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Larson, and I'm working with Fullmoon Digital as a client success manager. And I spend my time working with our clients on their strategies and project managing the campaigns that they're working on, and just working to try and make their campaigns really successful. It has been an interesting change, even though we're already working remote. It's still dynamically different, even for us. But we're working through it and trying to make the best out of the situation as much as possible. So Bryan, tell us a little bit about what you do, even though we have the same title.
So, thank you, Kirsten, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching us today. Again, my name is Bryan Shue. After 11 years in the Army, I retired in 2013, and I didn't have a clue of what I was going to do. So, I went to college, got my degree in information technology, and through the power of networking, I was connected with Derek Shue, who is the CEO and founder of Fullmoon Digital, who is our boss. And through that relationship, I am a customer success manager with him in the organization, driving customer success through campaigns, through advertising, and through project management. So, again, this is going to be a conversation between Kirsten and myself, and how we're successfully managing the lockdown that we're both dealing with.
Yeah. So, Bryan, have you noticed some things that you've been able to bring over from military world to Fullmoon, whether it be just in general as an asset at Fullmoon, and then also during this lockdown? We've had lots of conversations, and I've heard you say some things that related back to your military time, and I'm sure that you'll have some great insight.
No, great question. And it should be one that should be asked by all organizations, not just the ones that are fully remote like us, and or the ones that are now being forced into it. But when you have a veteran on your team, you should be talking to them and getting their experience. And one for me that this whole lockdown has taught me is that this is very normal for me. This is very much a typical situation during my military career. Is that when I was in a deployment situation, all I had was my job to focus on. And then the time I spent away from my job, I was focusing on my family. So I was able to blend those two together through deployments and sacrifice maybe some sleep to spend the time on the phone with my family back home in Georgia, when I was overseas in Iraq. And, you know, and you don't need to look at this as such a negative aspect. You should be looking at this as a positive. And that's another thing about the veteran community, is that we're very positive people. We're not all the people that are just like, oh God, the world's going to be over, the world's ending, the world's going to fall on me. No, we are not those people. We are the people that want to lead your organizations because we have that experience in crisis. And we've been managing crisis our whole careers. Because if you look at, managing a group of 20 to 30 people in an overseas environment is very stressful in itself, because you've now taken a group of individuals away from their families, away from their normal environments, and place them in a foreign environment that is very dangerous. You're now trying to tell them, hey, you know what? Do your job, you'll get home safe. So in the same context, we're going to do our jobs, we're going to be staying safe, and we're going to, at the end of the day, this too shall pass.
Very good. This too shall pass. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So,
All right. I have a question for you. Since you have since you have a child at home, how has that been with you? I guess you say balancing those expectations, because again, work and life has always been separate. Now we're having to blend those two. What have you been managing those needs of your family versus needs of your little full moon?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm still figuring that out. Luckily, I was already remote, so I had some time to get over the hump of figuring out how to be remote. So now I can focus on how to be remote and work on homeschooling your kid and have them tugging at your leg at all times. As we've seen, there's lots of calls where, he comes running in and um, honestly, a while ago, if before being home all the time, I would have been really strict and been like, okay, you can't be in a video or you can't say hi to like a coworker while I'm trying to have a meeting or something. But at this point, the kids are so bored. They're not seeing their friends. They're not seeing extra family. They are like, "Oh, you're talking to a person? Like, let me, I want to say hi." Like, and so I'm having, I think we need to have a little bit more empathy at this point. And I've even been on other meetings where people are embarrassed and about the kids running around in the background or something. And really this is just real life, and we're all in this situation. It's different, and what's okay feels a little bit awkward, but I think we have to think about what's best for everyone in the situation. And this is just, at the end of this, it's probably gonna look back and think, okay, that was really just like a blip on the record of our lives. So I think that we need to make the priority our families and kids, even though a lot of the time is still spent working. So the way that I do it is I create little lists. My son is 7, so I create little lists, and he has his things he has to do, and so he knows. And I just tell him, okay, get these done, and built into those lists are snacks and movie time, and maybe even next week video games once I get a little bit more desperate. So so he is able to know this is what I got to do, and I know that once she gets off that call, I'm gonna have time to run around and play, and she's gonna talk to me. So I think just making them feel comfortable that I'm coming back to you. It's not urgent, so that helps a lot. And also just trying to engage them as much as possible. But another trick is to work while they're sleeping. So I've incorporated naps. My son does not take naps before. He's 7. He's way past nap time. So I'm just like, so now it's like I made a deal. He could stay up later and he has to take naps. So I get a couple hours every day. And you know what? I don't I don't see anything wrong with that. It's really helpful. So
No, that's that's great, and I think that should be something that maybe those that are watching us can take into their own lives. Is how are you engaging your child while you're working?
yeah.
And that's a great point, because I think a lot of us are so used to separating our children and our lives from our work, and now we're being forced to integrate those so closely. So
Mhm.
that's a great point, Kristen. Thank you.
So for you and your life, I know that you came on to Full Moon right before this. I actually was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, if he had come on like right when this happened, I wonder what it would have felt like just to be thrown into the thick of it. But I mean, you did start pretty recently, close to the beginning of this. What is that like not having several months to just like get acclimated. You just kind of had to hit the ground running and get creative and jump all in. I don't know if you were actually remote prior to this. So what has that been like, just kind of adjusting to being like fully remote, fully stuck in the house all at once really fast?
Yeah, I haven't really been in a remote position before. My previous job, I had to be in an office, and when I was in college, I had to be in the classroom. So, and then the military, you got to be around your unit, so you don't really have that chance of working from home. So, um, and I mean, my previous employer was like, "Yeah, you can work from home, but you really need to be in the office." So, it's kind of one of those like, yeah, that's okay, but we don't really want you to be. So, but being thrown into a 100% remote has been an adjustment for me, and
Mhm.
being that routine. And that's another thing for us is we go into this new normal. Think about, what routine are you setting up for yourself? What kind of schedule are you keeping for yourself? And are you holding yourself to that? I set my alarm to wake up at a set time every day, and then I come downstairs, I get my coffee or get my breakfast, and then I sit down, I turn my laptop and start working. And then, I take a
Yeah.
break every couple of hours so I can kind of like because you, especially when you're working, and especially if you're working from home, you need that moment to kind of take a breath and take a, okay, let me refocus on my next task. And
Mhm.
that's another thing, as leaders we need to understand, is that our people will not be engaged for a full 8 hours. They just won't be. I mean, we can say we're working for 8 hours, but in reality, we might be having six, because we have, that moment for to go into the bathroom, to get something to eat, to
Mhm.
take care of the family that are around, and having that opportunity to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know, to that family member that's with us, whether it be husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, child, dog, even. You have to have that moment to be able to take a breath and say, hey, I recognize you're home. You're home with me. You're working. I'm working. Let's have that moment to just say, hey, how are you doing? How's it going? What's work going for you today? Because that can be really crucial, especially if you're both working remote. Having that connectivity to say, I'm gonna check in on you, you check in on me. How are you doing? What are you doing? And being able to have that open conversation is really crucial. And it's really helped me. So, and it is an adjustment being 100% remote. I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you. Being a remote is an adjustment, and you have to be okay with that adjustment. Don't shy away from it. Be welcoming, welcome it, and thrive in it. Because at the end of the day, when this is over, show your leaders, and for those that are leaders watching this, encourage your people to step up and communicate with them and show that empathy to them, because they're stressed, you're stressed, we're in a brand new environment that we're not all used to. You have to accept that, and you have to be okay with that. And I think that
Mhm.
as a leader, we should be okay with, and we should be accepting of. So,
Yeah.
it isn't, it's not, it's not bad for your people to be working at home. It really isn't. You may not control them like you're used to. And that's another thing. As a leader, we have to be okay to adapt. We have to adapt, because if we don't adapt, we're going to lose sight of all the people. And guess what? We're going to start losing people. We start losing people, then you start losing your culture. You start losing your culture, you lose your organization. You lose your organization, your business is done. It is done for.
I feel really lucky and blessed that we work in the organization that we're in, because um, our boss, Derek, is creating a company culture that is based on trust and building people up and creating a little army of leaders. And we're encouraged to be creative. We're encouraged to start new projects, create things, and be our own leader and bring ideas to the table. And that type of trust has to start in the beginning in order to create a culture where we all want to be successful. We all want to work, and we all want to be seen as doing well. I think when you create a culture of, I'm going to have you keep the Zoom on all day so that I can, keep an eye on you and make sure you're not taking longer than a 30-minute lunch break, that creates a culture of unhappiness and then sneakiness. And then people are trying to find ways to get out of doing something, or pretend to be working. But um, in this situation, I actually want to be success. I want to see the company be successful. I think it becomes a situation where the company's success is our success, and I think if more organizations adapted that, they'd be much more successful, or they would be successful in this type of a remote work environment. And honestly, it's
Here's
definitely like our situation.
Oh, absolutely. And you have to realize that what we have right now with Derek and at Fullmoon, we're in a unique position to succeed. And, for you, I want you, have a few minutes. Is what has it been like for you to come into Fullmoon from your previous organizations to have this culture, and how would you encourage those that are watching this to maybe integrate some of what we're doing into their?
Yeah, so I have been in-house at every job I've had before, and worked for really, really small teams and then really big companies, and um, and then something in between, honestly. So I've kind of went, small, medium, and large, always in-house, and then um, switching over to remote when I started, looking this direction. And the very beginning was very exciting, but hard, because it was hard to make that transition, and stay focused and um, be productive when you didn't have someone to like bounce things off of right in front of you. I'm a very much a face-to-face person, and so luckily I had a lot of like one-on-one phone calls and meetings to help get through that. But it was definitely a process for me, and I became more productive and started doing just a little bit more hours every week. For me, I didn't necessarily start work, full time right off the bat, which that's what a lot of people are doing. So they have to adjust much more quickly. But I would say I watched some YouTube videos and stuff to get some tips along the way. And the number one thing is that routine. Waking up at the same time every day, um, get up, get dressed. I'm actually wearing like even like slacks today. I just decided, I was like, I'm gonna actually get dressed for work today, and it makes me feel good. And I mean, I'm not gonna always wear slacks because it's nice to stay comfortable, but every once in a while I'll throw on like work clothes and really get ready. um I wouldn't say you need to go all out every day. I get that. Let's be comfortable. We are home, and that's one of the reasons why we like being remote. But get up, like you said, coffee and breakfast. Don't jump straight into work the moment you wake up. I mean, I still do that sometimes, like respond to some things, but try to get up, wash your face, brush your teeth, drink some water, take a minute, whether you take a walk or work out or just have that quiet moment, some kind of a ritual. It sets you up for success for the whole day. And I've heard other leaders say the same thing. All of our routines are different. So you can't steal someone's routine, because it's not going to, one person likes to meditate, the other one wants to drink some coffee, and, someone else enjoys cooking a nice breakfast, and it's really going to be different for all of us, but that's the fun, and is like make it yours. I think the other thing is, for me, I have a lot of thoughts just like start coming through my head, and it's like, oh my gosh, I see the laundry needs to be done, the dishes need to be done, I need to, do like this phone call, I have to call Comcast, or I have to like do something, and all these things start to go in my head. And so I keep a little notebook, and that is for those like fleeting thoughts that will really distract you throughout your day and get you into a situation where all of a sudden then you're on the phone doing something, and then you forget where you were, and you're bouncing back and forth. So I just have like a little notebook, and whenever I see there's like a to-do list item that jumps into my head that doesn't have to do with work, I write it down, and then I will tend to break out my day where I have a piece in the middle of the day where I can go work on some of those tasks, and then I come back to work. I enjoy being able to spread my day out a little bit more that way. So I work a little bit later, but I also still get that time in, or the same amount of productivity, because I get to break it up a little bit. So those would be my tips, mainly the routine, and then keep a little journal of all your little fleeting thoughts. So yeah, yeah. So are you on mute, or can I hear you right now?
Go ahead.
You're back, you're
I
back.
was on mute. I was on mute.
Oh,
I just wanted you to chat because I don't want to break into your conversation piece. So, and
yeah.
that's the fun part of being on a Zoom chat, and that's one thing. Like for me, when I'm asking people how are you connecting with others, and I think that's a big piece that we need to think about is how are you communicating with those around you. And
Yeah.
we have so many great tools at our disposal. We have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Zoom, we have Skype, you have FaceTime. There's so many ways to
Mhm.
reconnect with your network, both personal and professional now, that, take 5 minutes out of your day, send that text, say, hey, I haven't talked to you in forever, but how are you doing? Because that's what that shows, that you're empathetic. That shows that you care. And that shows that, hey, you know what? He's taking time out of his day. I know he's busy. He's taking time out of his day to just see how I'm doing. How what's been going on with me to make me, you know, be on his mind. So, don't we should never discount that, especially in today's time.
How have you adjusted to being on, video all the time now? Because I know when we first started working together, it was, a lot of phone calls, and I've noticed a lot of organizations that would prefer a phone call before. Now all of a sudden everybody is on video. So how do you like that? And do you think that you either want it to continue, or do you think it will continue to be like a cultural type thing
That's that's
after?
a great that's a great question. And to me, adjusting to the whole video thing, it's been different. I'm now sitting, in a different location than I usually would because I want you guys to see something really nice, rather than into a different area of my house. So I have to adjust my set, which is fine. But also it gives that person on the other end of the Zoom call a chance to see who I am, see a little bit of my personality. Because when you are sitting somewhere, in your house or in your home office, you kind of give a window into who you are as an individual. And it kind of gives that person that's, you know what, hey, you know what, they're kind of creative, or they're kind of like,
Mhm.
they're celebrating their accomplishments in their life, or they're celebrating some part of their life that has now maybe ended, but they want to look back and be like, yeah, I've done that. I'm sure at some point in my time when I sell into a full uh, a final place, because I'm renting an apartment right now, but when I maybe do get into a house or whatever the case may be, I might hang up my military stuff because I want to show that stuff off because that's a part of my life. And that's what I've accomplished throughout my life. Yes, it's 11 years of my life that I wanted somebody to look back and say, wow, that's a lot of cool stuff you've done, which, yes, it is. And, or I wanted to, have in the background some places I've traveled to because I'm a traveler. So I like to, I want people to see that, I'm not just sitting in my house all the time. I'm out exploring the world. I'm out interacting with other people and other cultures and visiting different spots that, maybe years ago I probably wouldn't have thought of. So, or I may not even consider because of the coronavirus. So, having that ability to, look and see that person. And again, this also goes back to building that relationship because you can have a better relationship with somebody when you know who they are. And I mean, yes, you kind of get a clue into them when you're on the phone, but it really builds that deeper relationship when you're seeing them face to face like this.
Mhm.
And I've enjoyed it, and I hope it continues.
So that actually brings up another question. When it comes to reading situations, reading people, and I'm sure that's even a military thing that you've learned a little bit about. What are tips that you would give people about trying to read people when a lot of our communication is email, is whatever messaging platform the organization may be using? What tips can you give about good communication when most of it's in writing and then a few phone conversations and videos? How can we, one, take really good advantage of those videos when we do get them, but then two, analyze all the messages and understand them properly when you're used to being
Yeah,
face.
no, that's a great point, and you're right. A lot of organizations, not just ours, but organizations in general that are traditionally in person and now going into additional, you're having to learn how to interact with somebody digitally. So
Mhm.
you're having to read their messages, and that also comes from how well do you know that person? How well do you understand that person? How well have you communicated with them? And being an over communicator, especially in today's time, will be more beneficial to you, especially as a leader, than you just sitting back and saying, well, I'm just going to let the team figure it out on their own. As a leader, this is when you need to kind of take that charge and say, how am I going to communicate with my team? What do I need to tell them that is going on? Because at the end of the day, they're going to take the lead from you. And if you're just sitting back and saying, you know what, hands off, I'm just gonna, go with the flow, and that's not what your team is expecting. They're expecting you to kind of just come out and say, "This is my expectations. These are what I need from you," and you get that better understanding the longer it goes on, and you know you have to be okay with maybe not knowing everything, especially at the beginning, but understanding it as you go along and taking those mental notes. When you're starting watching that video, you're starting to see when they might raise their eyebrows, or when they might shrug their shoulders, or when they might sit back in their chair and say, and you start hearing those clues. You can kind of start seeing because people will tell you through their body language more
Mhm.
than they will tell you through their words. So you know, instead of sitting back and watching from afar on your Zoom chats, watch from up close, and sit closer to the video.
Are you
You don't have
giving
to
me a
sit like
here? I'll give a
this. I
tutorial.
mean, you
Let me move up a little bit more. Is this a little bit better?
you don't have to sit like 10 miles back, but you can sit closer.
Ah,
Because again, that's also what will make somebody feel comfortable when they feel like you're close, and that also makes them feel like you're invested in them. And
mhm.
that's another piece that we need to consider is how are we showing that investment in our teams as leaders? How are we showing the investment in teams, and how are we showing the investment into each other as individuals? How are we supporting each other as individuals? And that can be a huge um, part of the change in our leadership styles because as a leader some of you are used to just telling people, go do this and get it done and then come back to me. Well, now you're not able to do that because you're not able to sit there directly across from them and shout to them from the other cubicle. You're now having to sit with them face to face on Zoom or whatever other video platform you're using and talk to them like that. So adjusting to the new normal is okay. It's to be expected.
Right on. Very nice. But no, you made me aware. I'm like, okay, maybe I should sit up a little bit more or scoot in, trying to like come up with the right video kind of situation over here. Oh, that is so funny. So, no, I really appreciate that.
Don't tell people don't tell people to vote because they might not understand what you're talking about.
To
So
vote?
yeah, to vogue, to do
Oh,
vogue.
oh, right. That's so funny.
So and you know as and here's where I want your kind of experiences. How are you able to manage those conversations with people that you've only talked to on the phone and now you're seeing them on video? What's kind of been like that for you? Because I know that's kind of probably you're probably like, oh, I've never been on video and I'm not really comfortable, and now you're being like, go on video. So for
All
you, what's
the
that like?
um, so that is so funny because when I'm on the phone all the time, I develop a picture of somebody and I picture what their hair color is and how tall I think they are. And just, I don't know why I have a picture for everybody's face. And then when you start to see them on video, all of a sudden, like, oh, they actually don't look like they're a redhead and I pictured a blonde. I don't know why, but I just had that in my head. And that is very bizarre. I have definitely noticed that, and it's kind of cool because then you get to know the real people. Um, so it's interesting because we never had to switch to video. We were doing just fine with our phone calls and getting to know people through, their personalities and stuff like that. But it just became trendy, and as more people in the organization that were not always part of certain phone calls have now jumped in because they want to be more involved, it's become more of a video thing. Like, I want to see you, I want to see your eyes, I want to see your face. And so now I'm starting to see everybody, like even the people that I've only ever seen email, and I like it. I think it's kind of cool. It's more like feeling face to face, and I truly do feel that even though I'm not shaking hands with people and I'm not, within 6 feet of anybody, but I still feel like I'm getting connection every single day. I'm getting interaction with people. I'm not feeling so cooped up and like, oh my gosh, I need to go hang out and interact with human beings. I mean, it's going to feel good when we can again go sit at a restaurant or whatever. But every day, this is helping fulfill those needs. And I think a lot of organizations realize that too. A lot that we work with, they're realizing that we actually jumping on the video is more than just a business decision. It's almost a way to assist everybody in getting that interaction and communication that humans as relationship beings that we need. And I think it's showing some humanity behind the business aspects as well. So that's the other really cool thing. Everyone is becoming very real and not just um, a name or a job to do. Everyone is becoming real people, and that empathy starts to fill in. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
and you brought up a great point, and that shows our human side. And again, as you're watching this, think about how are you showing that human side to not just your team and your leaders around you, but also to your organization as a whole. Because again, we're all in this together. We're all dealing with some sort of stressful situation. And
Mhm.
being able to handle that is crucial for today. I want to ask you, if people wanted to further this conversation, how would they connect with you?
So I'm on every form of social media. I'm on LinkedIn under, listed under Fullmoon, and also Kirsten Larson or Kirsten Nicole at Instagram or Facebook. So I'd be more than happy to continue the conversation and maybe even a video chat here and there. I would love that. So yeah, that's where I can be found. How about yourself?
I am on LinkedIn under Bryan Shue, and if you look at my profile, I have a picture of a shoes, and so it's kind of unique play on my name. So, and that's kind of a fun part of who I am. And I work with the veteran community very closely. So if you're a military veteran, let's reach out to me. Let's have a conversation, and or if you're in the space, the marketing space, let's have a conversation. Again, we're all here. We're all in this together. We all are here to learn. So don't feel like you can't reach out to either Kirsten or myself. Let's have a conversation. Let's open those doors for each other because at the end of the day, you never know what may come from this. So I love having connections. I love building relationships with people, and that's what my goal is to build those relationships, whether it be for myself or for my network. Um, and let's wrap this up today. If somebody were to walk up to you and say, "What's one inspiring message you can give me for today?" What would that be?
One inspiring message for today. I would say that every trial is a blessing in disguise, and I really believe that. And so I think that we need to find the blessing inside this, and it's different for all of us. So the message of inspiration would be to find the blessing in disguise and take advantage of this time that we're given. This may be a time that someone can use to learn another language or to learn a new skill or connect with their family. Find that blessing and continue it, create it for yourself.
Well said. Well
Yeah.
said.
So do you have a motivating message that has been rolling around in your head throughout this?
I mean, really, to be honest with you, it really has been. This is kind of where, like, my experience as being in the military kind of comes to the forefront. Is that at the end of the day, this whole coronavirus lockdown, quarantine, whatever you might be dealing with, it's not a permanent situation. It really is not. It will pass. We'll get through this. We're going to work through this. We have our medical professionals fighting this battle on the front lines on a daily basis. They are doing everything they can to solve this this big question. And and if you're a leader watching this, to and I'm going to challenge you as leaders, don't take your teams for granted because as soon as this might be over, if you're not engaging with them, they're going to be looking for the exit door. So encourage, keep growing your teams, keep engaging your teams, keep sharing with your teams because that will help build that identity that you're invested in them. And at the end of the day, that's a leader to invest in the people around you, invest in your team, because that's what's going to drive your organization forward is those team members. And look at them as parts of a bigger operation. You need these people to continue running your organization. Well, you can't replace them easily. They're valuable. Treat them as valuable pieces and show that you care about them. They are humans. They shouldn't be treated as a disposable piece because they aren't. Um, and you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to be better for this because we're going to show that we're more resilient than ever before. And that's another thing. Be able to be resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that looks like to you, resiliency matters. Have a conversation with other professionals that are maybe experts in resiliency. Build those relationships with them, have those conversations with them, because they can help guide you into better spaces, both mentally and professionally. So I encourage you to do that. And, at the end of the day, we want to see you succeed. I know I do. And, our team at Full Moon does as well. So if you're watching this, by all means, reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. If we can't help you, let's work our networks to help you. Because again, we're humans. That's what we do. So, um, it was a pleasure speaking with you today, Christian. I love it. I know I've enjoyed every time we've had a conversation because you're so much fun. You make me laugh half the time because I'm
Oh,
like, wow,
good.
did she really just say that? I'm like, oh man, okay, well, all right, I'm gonna roll with this then.
Oh, that's super cool.
Again, that also shows how much we are human in this, and how much our background's different, but we're also the same. So, it's been a pleasure for sure.
Yeah, well said, Bryan. Thank you. And well, I look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely. And our episodes will be on YouTube and they will be on our company blog. So, keep up with our episodes and watch them. And, if this is interesting to you, reach out to us. Let's maybe have you on an episode too. So
Mhm.
thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this. We love you guys. We can't wait to talk to you guys soon. You have a great day today.